Welcome to the show, Julian Assange. Now, it won't surprise you, most of the show this morning so far has been about this great European debate. Do you have a view about whether Britain should stay in the EU or leave?
I do, but first just let me correct you. I have political asylum at this embassy in relation to a US espionage investigation, which is now in its 5th year, the largest ever investigation and pending prosecution of a publisher, a very serious business.
Sure.
My co-defendant, Chelsea Manning, was sentenced to 35 years in prison and tortured in that prison, finding both of the UN and by the US military itself.
Now, I understand that. And thank you for clearing that up. On Brexit, where do you stand?
On Brexit, well, leave is a lot more interesting, right? But I think you can put the camps like this. You've got right in, that's basically a vote for the empire. Right out, vote for the old empire. Left out, another world is possible. Left in, another world is not really possible at all. But on that right in camp, you really have to include the Blairites. Now, there's been a range of, let's say, vulgar transatlanticists from Hillary Clinton to Hillary Benn pushing the stay-in case. They perceive that their power base is somehow connected to the United States. And the United States wants to keep the UK in the EU to be its man in the EU, in effect to prevent continental Europe from being all that it might become.
So does that mean, sorry, that you're a Brexit, that you think we should leave?
Pretty much. I mean, I also have something I've experienced personally, which is seeing this government, the Cameron government, repeatedly use the EU as political cover for its own decision-making. It launders things to the EU and then claims that it can't do anything about it. For example, the EAW, the European Arrest Warrant. We think here in the United Kingdom that you have a right to a fair trial, that includes evidence, judges and charges. But in my case, we don't have any of that. And it's not just me. Many people in the UK have been affected by that. That's a fundamental basis of sovereignty, is random officials in the rest of the European Union can't suddenly force your police to arrest people. Well, Cameron says, in relation to my situation, well, it's nothing that he can do. It's not the decision of his government to engage in this extremely expensive siege for the last 4 years. Rather, he's forced to do it by the EU. But of course, actually, the EAW has been pushed by the former Labour government and this government, and Cameron passes the buck to the EU in that case, also in data retention and also for the TTIP. The worst elements coming out of the EU have been actually pushed by governments in the UK. So the UK is bad for the EU, but also the EU is bad for the UK because it permits a lack of democratic accountability in this country by permitting successive governments in this country to simply say, oh, we're forced into doing things because of EU legislation, when it is precisely these governments that have been behind that EU legislation in the first place. And you can see that also in relation to immigration. Now, if you look at the figures...
Can I move us on then? Because it's simply we've got a lot to cover and we haven't got that much time. You mentioned Hillary Clinton, who's now the Democratic candidate for the presidency. You've been taking an interest, I understand, in the whole issue of the emails she sent using her private server. Do you have any of the undisclosed emails?
Well, taking an interest, I think, is putting it mildly. We've published 32,000 of them in some analysis. We have upcoming leaks in relation to Hillary Clinton, which is great. We actually have WikiLeaks has a very big year ahead.
But some of the ones that have not yet come into the public domain, you are planning to put out.
We have emails related to Hillary Clinton, which are pending publication. That is correct. But
what about the FBI investigation? What about the FBI investigation itself? Where do you think that will end up?
Well, unfortunately, I think what's going to happen is that the FBI is going to go we have accumulated a lot of material about Hillary Clinton. We could proceed to an indictment. But if you've got Loretta Lynch as the DOJ, head of the DOJ in the United States, appointed by Obama, Loretta Lynch is the person in charge of our case, she's not going to indict Hillary Clinton. That's not possible. That could happen. But the FBI can push for concessions from the new Clinton government in exchange for its lack of indictment. But there's very strong material, both in the emails and in relation to the Clinton Foundation. For example, we published an email where Hillary Clinton is instructing her staff to remove the classified header of a classified document and send it by non-classified fax. So that just requires one more thing, which is to show that the document was actually sent. But she instructed her staff to violate those classification procedures in the United States. Of course, I think personally a lot of these procedures are ridiculous, but Hillary Clinton has been pushing to prosecute others, and so has Barack Obama, who violate technically these procedures. Very
briefly, I mean, plainly what you are saying and what you've been publishing hurts Hillary Clinton. Would you prefer Trump to be president?
Well, I think Trump is a completely unpredictable phenomenon. You can't predict what he would do in office. You can predict a bit more what the Republican Party would do in office. From my personal perspective, well, you know, the emails we published show that Hillary Clinton is receiving constant updates about my personal situation. She has pushed for the prosecution of WikiLeaks, which is still in train. So we do see her as a bit of a problem for freedom of the press more generally. In relation to wars, the emails we revealed about her involvement in Libya and statements by Pentagon generals show that Hillary was overriding the Pentagon's reluctance to overthrow Muammar Gaddafi, because they predicted that the post-war outcome would be something like what it is, which is ISIS taking over the country. It's Hillary who was the leading champion in office to do that. She has a long history of being a liberal war hawk. And we presume that she's going to proceed.
I'm really sorry, Mr. Assange, but I'm being told we're out of time. But it's been a pleasure talking to you, and hope to speak to you again.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
All the best. Thank you.